Now at noon, we're learning more about the charges Atlanta radio icon Big Tigger faces following a fight with his wife. The radio personality, whose real name is Darian Morgan, was arrested over the weekend on battery and child cruelty charges. An arrest warrant says back in May, Morgan and his wife were arguing over text messages when she started recording video. The warrant says she ended up with a bruised lip and later stumbled, hitting her head on a door. Their teen son was home at the time. Earlier this month, Morgan denied allegations in a social media video.